Help us to understand Jair Bolsonaro's rise to prominence. This is a man who has broken taboos. He has been grossly offensive in past comments that he's made. Why is he winning so much support now?
Well, this has very much to do with the backlash and the downfall of more moderate centre-right parties in Brazil. You know, this election here, it's really about anti-workers party sentiment. And it just so happens that Mr. Bolsonaro is the strongest figure and the most anti-workers party figure that there is right now. You know, Brazil has been absolutely rocked by corruption scandals and economic crisis over the past 4 years. There's rising violence. Last year, there was a record 64,000 homicides nearly. And Mr. Bolsonaro has managed very well to basically unite all of the banners of anti-workers party, economically, ethically, politically, after all of these corruption scandals and the fallout of the economy, etc. He's managed to unite all of these anti-workers party banners with an extreme law and order message. That is, kill criminals, suspected criminals on sight. Police shouldn't have to respond to courts if they kill criminals. And all of that is really resonating right now with an electorate which is absolutely fed up with politics as usual. That said, of course, the Workers' Party still remains the most popular party in Brazil. But that's it. This is an election that is absolutely about rejections. And at the moment, it seems that the rejection rate is favouring Mr. Bolsonaro, and that people are rejecting the Workers' Party more than his government and his message.
And indeed, it does appear to be part of this populist trend that we have seen play out in other parts of the world as well. But he does have these militaristic, authoritarian tendencies we were hearing about. Brazil's democracy is still fairly young. Are there fears about what his victory could mean for the future of the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's picked a general, a very outspoken general, General Mourão, as his vice. And, General Mourão last year, when there was some, when President Michel Temer was being hit by corruption scandals, General Mourão was saying, well, if it's needed for military intervention to restore order, then we should do it. He's also said, this being Bolsonaro's vice as well, he says, if there's anarchy, then we'll have to do a self-coup, an auto-coup to restore order. And so, people are very worried about democracy here. The military dictatorship in which, hundreds of people were disappeared and killed, thousands more tortured. This only ended, a little bit more than 35 years ago, basically. Brazil's constitution, its post-military dictatorship constitution, was literally only signed about 30 years ago, this time last week. So it's a very young democracy, a very fragile democracy, and people are extremely worried about the future of democracies here, especially seeing that Mr. Bolsonaro is a man that openly praises the military dictatorship. He says that instead of torturing people, they should have killed them. He's a man that has, praised the strongman, the former dictator of Chile, Augusto Pinochet. So, with this rhetoric, it's definitely a worrying time for Brazilian democracy. And regardless of whether he's actually able to implement laws or, there's a big disconnect between legislation and reality on the ground in Brazil. But just having somebody like this in the executive position, people are worried that that's going to send a very worrying message on the ground, where we're going to see more deaths on the peripheries of the city, more killing of indigenous people, more deaths in the countryside over rural land disputes. So, yeah, people here that are not on the Bolsonaro train are extremely worried right now. It's a very divided society.